So as you get your summer crop seedlings into the garden, how do you prioritize which plants you really should be giving that full sun versus which plants can handle a little bit of shade? And then when your heat waves start rolling in, how do you prioritize which plants should be given shade cloth first and which plants maybe can handle it? So watching my plants grow, particularly my summer vegetables, some observations about some plants that can handle shade better than others. Let me show you. First, my eggplants. These are growing at the speed of light after the temperature started to heat up. And this plant, or these plants, are about, I'd say, 2 feet tall. And here are the leaves just for scale, how big they are. But let me show you my shaded eggplant. So this is my pepper bed, and I just tucked in a couple of squash plants. You know, they were tiny and all that, but look at them now. They're huge. Dinner plate size leaves, just for scale, and hiding in the shade of them are a couple of eggplants. Look how tiny these are. These are similar varieties that I had in the bed that I just showed you, but these plants are just about 8 inches tall and they're being shaded out by the monster squash plants. These probably have the highest tolerance for shade among these summer vegetables. They actually prefer afternoon shade. If you give them too much sun, they just tend to burn their peppers and they just don't look very good. Tomatoes, on the other hand, are a mixed bag. They actually prefer temperatures and full sun all the way up to maybe 90 degrees or so. After that, you'd better be giving them some shade cloth because many days of 90 plus degrees will make them drop their blossoms and they'll just struggle. Speaking of peppers, I just continue to be impressed at my overwintered peppers that are growing in this sort of semi-shaded hardware cloth cage. They are doing so well. Just look at these guys. All on the same plant. So many large peppers and many, many more coming. Yeah, definitely try and overwinter your peppers if you possibly can, because year two, so much better than year one. Now let's talk about the flip side. Which plants should you cover when there's a heat wave coming on and you've got to prioritize your shade cloth? Tomatoes, for sure. They do not like temperatures that are really high. They will stop producing blossoms and they will drop the existing blossoms that they have. I would also protect cucumbers because they do tend to get a little bitter if the soil dries out. And speaking of the soil drying out, you need to mulch, guys. I mean, look at the amount of mulch that I have. This tomato plant. I've got a good 4 inches of mulch, and that keeps the soil really cool, and that actually helps the plant survive those higher temperatures. An exception is the ground cherry as well as tomatillos, these little husk covered fruit. The plant can handle a lot higher temperature, at least 5 degrees higher than tomatoes, so they can go up to maybe even 95 without any problem. So I wouldn't prioritize tomatillos. Tomatoes, definitely, you want to give them some shade. Now, when it comes to peppers, I would certainly protect your bell peppers. Look at this one. Just got burnt in the sun. In general, with peppers, the larger the pepper and the sweeter the pepper, the more you want to protect it. And when I say larger, I mean not just size-wise, I mean also length. Some of the really long peppers, like Jimmy Nardello, as an example, which is a sweet pepper, it just burns very, very quickly. And I do not bother to protect squash or eggplant. In fact, the hotter the better for them. And I do make sure that I water really, really well. And again, thick layer of mulch for squash, pumpkins, eggplants, and that will keep the soil cooler, but the plant definitely can handle those high temperatures. In fact, some plants like squash have those natural adaptations where they fold their leaves when it gets really, really hot. Now, you may think that the leaves are drooping because of the lack of water, but really what it's doing is it's pushing water down into the roots where it is needed most, and the leaves folding prevent it from being as affected directly by the sun because there's less surface area. So don't try and go against nature by watering them in the middle of the day. Those plants know what they're doing, but definitely water in the morning when you're expecting a really hot day. A couple of other plants that you do not need to worry about are corn, okra. Corn with those nice thin skinny leaves doesn't get affected much by the sun. And okra, it's just a heat-loving plant. What can I say? So just to recap, when there's a heat wave coming, the first plants you need to protect are your tomatoes, then your cucumbers and your bell peppers. And then finally, if you have a little bit of extra shade cloth, throw it over any greens that you might have. Swiss chard, as an example, I grow through summer and I do give it a little bit of shade because they can grow through the heat, but they don't prefer it. Oh, and I forgot beans. No need for shade cloth. Dang, those squirrels got my tomatoes.